Good afternoon, everybody. I make it 4 minutes past 5, and therefore we can begin this meeting of the Cabinet on Wednesday, the 11th of February. We move to the agenda. Do I have any apologies for absence? I don't believe I do. There are no urgent matters. There are no matters to be considered in private other than those that are on the gold papers. So, as always, my warning that I would please ask you to indicate if you wish to refer to anything in the confidential appendices to any reports. If you should, we will need to turn off the live stream and ask the gallery to be emptied. And of course, we wouldn't necessarily wish to do that unless it was absolutely necessary. If it is necessary, that's fine, but please make that indication before you do so. Are there any declarations of interest? I see none. The minutes, therefore, of the previous meeting on the 10th of December, if I could direct Cabinet to review and ask that they're agreed. Thank you. I don't believe that there are any appointments to subcommittees or to outside bodies. So we will move to agenda item number 7, the 0 to 19 Healthy Child Programme contract arrangements for 2026. Councillor Blacker.
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet will remember we have previously agreed to pursue a longer term contract for the 0 to 19 services. In the meantime, I'm asking Cabinet to award a bridging contract to take us up to the point at which that new service can take into effect to maintain continuity of services.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or contributions? I didn't have any indications to speak. Therefore, I can direct Cabinet to the recommendations and ask that they're agreed. Thank you. We move to number 8, the 2026-27 Budget and Medium-Term Financial Strategy. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Good news. Good news on a range of levels. Firstly, that Cabinet and those watching won't have to hear me give the same speech I've given year after year at this point in the cycle, to the effect that it's impossible for councils to set a medium-term financial strategy when they live financially from year to year. And secondly, because specifically, we have no longer a single year settlement. We have a 3-year settlement, which has been long awaited, more than a decade, on top of which the government has recognised the growing needs of this borough, among others, and has directed more funding to Ealing over each of the next 3 years to the sum of £20 million per year. We all know how difficult it has been to manage our budgets within our income over the course of the last 15 years, 16 years, the austerity period. And we know in particular the extent to which the growth in demand-led services, adult social care, children's social care, and more recently in homelessness, temporary accommodation, have eroded our ability to grow and maintain our traditional universal services, what many people probably still think of as the council, in the way that we would have wished. And I think we must view this budget, the 3-year settlement that represents it, as an opportunity to do 2 things in parallel: to think strategically about our investment in those demand-led services, to make the most effective interventions, not just the cheapest interventions, the most effective interventions for individuals, and also to use the money to make good some of the work we've had to put off over the course of the last 15 years. I always say quite properly thank you to the officers in finance, Emily Hill and her team, each budget round, but I think particularly this year, because it'd be fair to say detailed information came later than ever, and it's a stressful time for finance officers, and they pulled together, as you can see in front of you, a first-rate and very clear report showing both what's coming in and how we propose to spend it in the coming year. And we'll have, as ever, the full debate at full council, but I would like to draw attention to the proposals in the budget around your pride in our streets, investment in security, tackling antisocial behaviour, and supporting activities for young people. I think you'll see in here the fly tipping hit squad. You'll see investments in playgrounds. You'll see investment in mobile closed circuit television. And I think we'll have the opportunity to debate all these things at length at council. But these are evidence that what I said at the beginning, it's not just words, these are actions. It's the beginning of the first 3 years of recovery from 15 years of, frankly, financial oppression of local government. And I'm proud to be able to present this to colleagues this evening, and look forward to presenting it with your approval to council next month.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Any contributions or questions? I didn't have any indication to speak from the opposition. If there are none, let me put on record my thanks to officers for working together with the administration to bring together this budget. Councillor Donnelly, as you have rightly said, this is actually quite a historic moment for the council. This is our first no cuts budget in 15 years. That brings to an end a crippling period of government imposed austerity. And we have, as a council, worked incredibly hard during that time to both be fiscally disciplined, relentlessly and ruthlessly efficient, and stretching every penny of taxpayers' money. It means that we are one of very few councils that last year alone didn't have to spend our savings in order to balance our books, and we have been financially resilient throughout that time, and it creates a incredibly positive foundation on which we go forward. And that's even with having spent 10 years of that period having frozen council tax, meaning that, of course, the average resident still pays less in real terms today than they would have done if council tax had gone up with inflation during that time. So we are now reinvesting in frontline services, which is very positive to see. Many of those services that I know collectively, as we as a cabinet and the administration in the council overall, have had to take some tough but necessary decisions over the last 15 years to make sure that we as an organisation can continue to be a going concern and support those who are most vulnerable. And if that means that going forward from this point, we have a serious opportunity to invest in the things that we know that will make the most difference to our residents, supporting each other to find community and grow into community, ensuring that we grow each and every part of our local economy, and we put power and control into the hands of residents who ultimately know what's best for the future, then that is a budget I think each and every one of us can be proud of. So I once again put my thanks on record and commend the budget. So that being said, if I could ask Cabinet to review the recommendations and ask that they're agreed. Thank you very much. We then move to the 2026-27 Section 106 Service Planned Spend. Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Chair. So this is our annual look at how the council services will allocate 106 that the planning service, 106 payments that the planning service does require from applicants of developments to mitigate the harm that their development would do in that area. They are tightly controlled by legal agreements as to where the money can be spent, but this report looks to allocate 11.87 million to services for them to carry on that work to mitigate the harm that's been caused by those developments. And I think in general, I would like to point out that the council does collect a large sum of money from developers, and we will collect more under sale when that comes forward. But we have collected over £61 million. 53%, 32 million has been allocated, and the rest will be allocated as and when the services can spend that money in an efficient way to mitigate the harm those developments may have caused in that area. And therefore, things like doctor surgeries, new ones have been built. I think playing fields in Acton have had money allocated in terms of investment. So the saying that many residents say that, you know, a planning application causes harm, but there is no benefit for the community, is proven wrong by this document. We do have a infrastructure funding statement available on our website that people can look at to see how that money is always allocated every year. And so I would recommend this report to say this is also additional investment going into our services. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or contributions? No. A very positive result. A good sum of money taxed from developers to make sure that we're spending it on the things that residents need the most. So very positive, and look forward to seeing the SIL regime come online, I believe, next month too. So very positive. Okay. On that basis, if I could direct Cabinet to the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed. Thank you. Number 10, Community-Led Regeneration Charter, Councillor Munro. Thank
you, Chair. So this is us working through, we did have a community charter, and this links to that, to have a community-led regeneration charter. This looks to see how we can make sure that when developments do take place or are planned for, how we consult with our community and what's the best way to do that. So the charter lays out our principles, and then there is a toolkit which will be added to, and there's a delegation to make sure that we follow best example. And so we will be consulting to set up a proper toolkit that, as part of the planning process, the planners can point developers towards in how they should be consulting the residents around large applications, or even small ones, but usually the larger ones where they may cause more harm, but to make sure the community has a proper input into development and make sure that they actually can say that they had a say in how those developments are brought forward. So it's a good news story. We've got the community review panel, and we have the design review panel there as well. So there's a whole suite of inputs going into these developments to make sure that they're best for our community and they serve the needs of our community, as well as creating much needed homes and development in the borough. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Once again, I don't have any indications to speak from opposition. Are there any members that wish to make a comment or contribution? If not, again, you know, with thanks, a key milestone in that suite, Councillor Munro, that you've already discussed as to the extent of improvement that we've made in the planning service and the strategic planning function of the authority, and we can be proud that we have moved forward very, very clearly and consistently to be a much more inclusive and open and transparent planning function. So if Cabinet then can review the recommendations and can ask that they're agreed. Thank you. Item number 11, the community school admissions arrangements for 2027-28. Councillor Blacker.
Thank you, Chair. There is very little change to our previous admissions arrangements, certainly on the Pan London level. The one change we are proposing for Ealing Community Schools is the introduction of a staff criterion, details of which are in the report. But there are the analysis in the report shows that it's not a massive number of offers that we believe will be made. So it is in response to head teacher feedback about, and also brings it into line with practice in neighbouring boroughs.
Thank you. No comments or questions. I look to the room. None. Again, thank you for that work. If I could ask Cabinet to review the recommendations and ask they're agreed. Thank you. So the Council Plan Performance Report from Q2 of 2025-2026. As always, this is the quarterly performance report where we report on progress towards achieving the council plan. What of course is notable for this particular quarter is that we have produced what we would refer to as an impact report, or progress with unity, referring of course to the council's motto. Very much highlighting the extent of the activity that we have been able to achieve over this 4-year period that the council plan was designed and has lasted to implement, which is, I think, the first time that we've done it in this 4-year format. But I think goes to show the sort of dedication and clear-minded, objective nature in which we have worked towards those goals and targets. You know, almost all of them, even before we conclude the 4-year cycle, having been achieved. Some of them subject to the wider challenges that we've faced in the economy, not least the interest rate and inflation challenges created by the last government. But nevertheless, some fantastic achievements. And as always, what I will do, both with the performance report, is give Cabinet members just a brief opportunity, if you will, if you will, I'm sure that you will, but to speak to the performance report and anything that you wish to highlight. And because I've not got the pages directly in front of me, as I'm looking too closely at my agenda, I'm going to go around the room rather than the paper. So, Councillor Brett, let's go with you first.
Thank you, Chair. So obviously, you know, housing has still got some significant challenges, but I think that there's some things that were worth highlighting. And I know that the team have been working extremely hard on the reduction of the number of households in bed and breakfast over 6 weeks. And that has come down from 329 about just over a year ago, down to 82 within this report. And actually that number is continuing to come down. So I think it's good to recognise, obviously, we don't want any families in bed and breakfast, but it's a significant, you know, achievement given that the pressures that we're under in terms of people that are identifying as homeless on a daily basis. So I think that's, you know, I wanted to make sure that we highlight that. And also the number of homelessness cases that have had successful outcomes. And again, I think that it's, you know, despite the pressures that we're under, the team are working really, really hard to find some long-term solutions for families that are finding themselves in a homelessness situation. So I'm really, really pleased with the progress that's been made. And also, you know, on the back of a C2, you know, regulatory judgment, I think it's showing a really good sign of progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Anand.
Thank you, Chair. So the corporate health check KPIs for police recorded offences of personal robbery, violence with injury, antisocial behaviour cases, and the first time entrance in youth justice system aged 10 to 17, Chair. We've made significant progress. I'm very proud to say we've got green indicators showing that we've really reduced our key crime types. We're tackling antisocial behaviour within our borough, and we have performed well in reducing the number of first-time entrants to the youth justice system. This is all involving strong partnerships, working with our community and working with a lot of engagement and with our partners. And we've really done a lot of targeted intervention to be in a very safe place as we are. And I hope that we carry on in that direction with a lot of investment coming into crime and antisocial behaviour, as Councillor Donnelly pointed out. And I'm really looking forward to making that investment and really improving the crime and the fear of crime within our borough.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nagpal.
Thank you, Chair. On the number of people completing employability and professional courses, this is RAG rated as red as at Q2. However, that's partly because of how the academic year falls. And I'm confident that given the number of learners currently on the programme, that we will achieve our overall annual target by the end of March. On the percentage of food businesses compliant with food legislation, I'm really delighted that we are ahead of target on this KPI. It's testament to the amount of work that our food safety team do with food businesses across our borough. The amount of time that's invested not just in inspecting, but in helping to educate food businesses on how to be compliant with legislation. Last month, I was in Southall visiting a restaurant where I was able to present them with a High Five award, and they were extremely grateful for the amount of time that the team had taken to help them. Thank you.
Councillor Driscoll.
So we can report still our sustained very good recycling rates. We're nudging ever closer to our 50% target, and it's worth noting that many boroughs across London would aspire to get to 40%, where they're aspiring to, we're exceeding dramatically, and that bodes well for our future work to meet new challenges with simpler recycling coming hot on the heels shortly. So we've got a good solid base there and nudging ever closer to that 50%. Fly tipping collection continues to be a challenge, but we have addressed that with collection and investigation crews working jointly together. We continue to have strong enforcement through enforcement of FPNs and issuing those, which are at a very high rate compared to other boroughs, to show that we are determined to address this. Street cleansing and through litter and debris continues to be just marginally under where we've got a target at. So we've had deployed more focused crews over the leafing period, and that should probably feed through into later KPIs reporting. Graffiti and fly posting has been at a higher level, which makes it challenging to meet our goal, but we are still at the upper 80% achieving where we want to be. So we still are very active, and I think, broadly speaking, got good track record in street cleansing and those KPIs there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Backer.
Thank you, Chair. A really good swathe of green indicators for particularly on our social care, education, employment, training, and number of placement moves that we do. So really pleased with progress there. Just draw attention to some of the red indicators, particularly on the EHC plans within 20 weeks. It's actually very much improved since we last reported this. There are obviously national issues that affect our ability to recruit educational psychologists, for instance, to get the work done, but we are making very much good progress there. On the attainment points, I think we have really ambitious targets. So our level 5's Key Stage 4, we're consistently above the national average, but we still think that's not good enough. So we have technically a red status for that because we're not quite at the ambitious target we've set ourselves, even though we are well above the national average. And then we continue to work really closely with our schools and really hard with our schools to raise the attainment of Black Caribbean pupils in particular. And there's some really good work going on there, but we strive to do better as always.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ashani.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to say that we continue to work with our communities and empower them in the decisions that are taken by the council. I'm pleased to confirm that around this week we'll be announcing that the Acton Your Voice Your Town team will be announcing their first project, which will be funded directly from our Your Voice Your Town project, and the other 7 towns will do that very shortly after. And also 2 weeks ago, I attended the launch of the new Greenford Library, which forms part of our community managed libraries. So many exciting developments in the last quarter. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Councillor Manrope.
Thank you, Chair. Again, my suite is a suite of green on the planning service, and led by Peter George and Jennifer Peters and Alex Jackson. The service has performed extremely well over the last 4 years. We were given a platinum status by Planning Magazine, showing that even today is 100% of major applications decided on time, and the rest are in the high 90s, 97%, 94%. So the planning service has done well, and I think we've recognised in London as a great planning authority, highest performing, and that shows in the number of permissions that were given for things like affordable housing. I think second highest in London. So it really is to be commended, all the planning officers, and the service does go through some difficulties. We do lose people, we train people, and then they are, shall we say, poached by other private sector planning services because the officers are so good. But we do train our own and bring new people in. But the service is doing very well, and as shown by the indicators. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you. Just touch briefly, the continual improvement in collection rates on council tax business rates, which is important because moving forward we are committing in the budget to 98% collection rate, and we are moving ever closer to recovery to the pre-COVID rates of collection. I'd like to pay tribute to the customer service element, which I think is a much overlooked area. We're making continual improvements there, and just almost flip side reference to freedom of information. Sometimes we do better on this than others, but I think it's important to understand the increasing level of demand, the increasing number of freedom of information requests that come in. I don't know, perhaps people imagine that it is some kind of cost-free service. I don't think it's where members of the public think councils should principally be investing their money. Of course, transparency and openness is important, but much of what people are asking for is either irrelevant or is otherwise available through our public sources. So we're seeking to encourage more and more use of our portal, which will enable people to get the information they seek without us having to invest valuable officer time in responding to those requests.
Thank you, and Councillor Newstub.
Thank you, Chair. Particularly pleased to see that we are tracking above our targets on those who are able to enjoy reablement services at home once they leave hospital. It's a really important service to ensure that people can become well and independent and don't return to hospital. And a really important role of adult social care is ensuring the quality of our care homes in the borough. So I am really delighted to note that 78% of our care homes and 82% of our care agencies are good or outstanding as judged by CQC. It's a really meaningful way that we can be sure that our loved ones will be safe and well looked after in the borough of Ealing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I do have a request for a question from Councillor Malcolm, who is online.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my question relates to KPIs 53 and 54. It talks about the number of calls resolved at the point of contact and also the customers that are satisfied with their contact with the council. We're sort of 5 and 8% below the target, which is quite a way off. So can I ask why we are so far behind the target and what are we doing to reverse that and hopefully surpass the target at some point?
Councillor Donnelly, I know Councillor Malcolm's asked this question before, so perhaps you want to answer it again.
Well, I'll try. I mean, Councillor Malcolm I don't know whether Councillor Malcolm read further in the document to the point where the narrative seeks to explain these things. In terms of the satisfaction, in a sense, we reset our satisfaction index partway through the year by introducing a facility whereby everybody who contacts us automatically now gets a link in order to feedback. Previously, people were asked directly by the advisor whether they wished to make feedback. What that's done is it's increased the pool of feedback, and it turned out that we were slightly over-reporting satisfaction with the previous way. But I am not unhappy with an 80% plus satisfaction level, given the strains and of resourcing that we talked about before. I also think that to be getting close to 90% of resolution on first point of contact stands comparison with almost any service. I don't know how many other organisations Councillor Malcolm has caused to ring from time to time, but I think it stands comparison, and I'm proud of the service that our our customer service agents provide.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any other indications to speak, not least everybody's had something to say already. So with that in mind, if I could ask members to review the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed. We move next to the Dame Gertrude Young House paper, and that is Councillor Brett.
Thank you, Chair. So this sets out a procurement strategy so that we can continue to deliver 24/7 high supported housing. It is the only one within the borough, and it supports adults of 18 plus with complex mental health needs.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a very positive service. I don't see any other indications to speak. So Cabinet happy to agree with the recommendations in the report. Thank you. Number 14, the e-bike enforcement policy, Councillor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chair. So the policy asks for a 6-month trial to introduce enforcement for hire bikes. So this will where hire bikes are causing an obstruction, and this applies to any operator with or without an MOU that is operating in the borough. There's been a shift in the probably last year for boroughs across London to do different forms of enforcement. This will allow us to issue FPNs for those to the operator where we have obstructive bikes. We will have a 6-month review and then decide to continue or whether we expand. We are limited by the provisions in the Highways Act, how we can operate and introduce this. I'm sure members will be happy to know that they can use Live Clean Streets to report your obstructive bike. So something that is widely used across the borough. So multiple ways of, well, for residents, they will be able to report quite readily an obstructive bike, and that will go to our enforcement. We have to give 2 hours notice before we issue an FPN to an operator. That's part of the requirement in the Highways Act to offer a period of notice to the operator. So we're acting within the strictures of the current legislation. Going forward, there will be new provisions within legislation that's within Parliament now, because prior to this, we have very few operational levers over hire bike operators, but this has been addressed at long last. So that legislation will come in probably in 27, and there will be a Strategic Transport Authority in London. It's TfL that will take over this responsibility and work in liaison with local authorities. So in the meantime, we've got our own enforcement policy, and I'm sure this will be widely welcomed to ensure that it will support our move towards marked bays, so that it's quite clear for riders where they know where to put their bike, and then make sure they've got every opportunity to be parked properly. We've got an active consultation at the moment with 50 marked bays across the borough. So we've got a clear way of making sure that we provide a service that encourages active travel, that supports our shift in transport, and I'd sort of recommend the policy.
Well, let's see if it's widely supported, because we're about to have a question from Councillor Malcolm. Go ahead, Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you. Yes, my group does support this policy, as many other local authorities have done some similar activities. I've got a couple of questions though. One relates to who reports the bikes to Lime, and when does the 2-hour sort of timer start? Is that when the council reports it to Lime Bikes or the equivalents, or is it going directly from the residents to Lime Bikes or the equivalent? And then how is the adherence to that 2-hour clock starting? How does the council make sure it is going to actually enforce after that 2 hours, or is it going to be done more as a warning initially? And then lastly, how much do you believe could be yielded in fines in this trial period, just to get an idea of that?
Okay, Councillor Driscoll.
So as I was saying, it will go through Love Clean Streets, and as Love Clean Streets report directly to council services, it will do in this case. So it will be then picked up, and then the report will pass on to Lime. So there is a task at hand about passing those reports on, and then that 2-hour clock starts once it's passed on. And then we have our enforcement officers who will be able to check the location and make sure there's compliance there. And if there isn't compliance with the operators removing and resolving the obstruction, then we'll issue the FPN. So there is a process, and this process is structured by the Highways Act. So we have to offer that opportunity to give a warning in terms of how much might we generate. It's a new endeavour for us. There are other boroughs that have got FPNs and other ways of removing bikes and impounding. But I wouldn't like to hazard a guess here and now. And I think that would be improper. But we will take that and then invest it back into further enforcement measures. And if we decide to proceed with impounding and removing directly, then we'll have a fund to do that work as we review after 6 months.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions or comments from Cabinet? On that basis, with thanks for the report and that detail, can I ask Cabinet therefore to review the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed? Thank you. We now move to the Gurnell Leisure Centre enabling works and ground mitigation. Councillor Hashani.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to bring forward this report, which is seeking permission to get the ground ready for what will be a once-in-a-generation Gurnell Leisure Centre in our borough. Starting these enabling works now allows us to reduce some of the ground risks and cost risks before entering into a main contract in due course. Over the past year, we've secured the key foundations needed to move from planning to delivery. So we've achieved 3 major milestones only in the last few months. In December, we appointed a new leisure operator, and tonight, Councillor Manro will be recommending a preferred residential development partner, and now I'm recommending approval to begin on-site activity through this enabling works package. And these follow earlier achievements, including the planning permission, which we received last March, and also successfully completing the demolition of the old leisure centre in a safe and controlled way. So I'm particularly pleased that we are now in this position to get the ground ready in advance of main works beginning in due course. So I commend the report for your consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hashani, and it was very good to be with you and Councillor Manro just this morning, actually on site to take stock of the work that will now get underway should the report be agreed. And it's a prudent measure to move forward, in my view, on this basis before entering into the main contract. And I'm sure the work that is ongoing with the preferred bidder will ensure that we have a clear line of sight in what will no doubt be the stages as we go through them in the future. So I appreciate that very much. Are there any comments or questions from Cabinet? If not, then if I could direct you to the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed. Thank you very much. And we can then move to the second element of the Gurnell project, which is the residential site development adjacent to Gurnell Leisure Centre. Councillor Manro.
Thank you, Chair. So this site went through the planning process and was granted permission to build, I think, 300 homes. So this report is looking to bring forward a development partner. We've gone through a tendering exercise, and this report is indicating that we move into a development agreement with Countryside Properties, who are building in Acton, so we know them. But a lot of the reports are still restricted because we need to move through the legal agreements, etc. So the report is saying, that's why some of it's in gold pages, and I don't intend to go there. But what I would say is that I'm looking forward to a substantial sum of money going towards Gurnell Leisure Centre to help build the leisure centre as the contract moves forward. And also, I think many people will be pleasantly surprised by the quantum of affordable housing that may come forward on this site. but that will come through the development agreement, and that's yet to be decided. But I think we can look forward to some good news when that time comes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No, and I didn't have any requests to speak. Therefore, if I could ask Cabinet to review the recommendations in the report and ask that they are agreed. We next move to item number 17, the Housing Revenue Account HRA Business Plan for 2026-2027 and beyond. Councillor Brett.
Thank you, Chair. So the HRA business plan sets out the strategy for delivering safe and good quality homes over the next couple of years, as well as a long-term in 30-year plan. It's, we want to continue to invest in our stock, and we've got an 85% finished stock condition survey. So that's helped inform the plans of what we're doing. And we also want to make sure that we are starting to replenish our HRA reserves so that we can make sure that we are prudent and a healthy HRA. It also has within those plans recommendations from the social housing regulator, and also in terms of basically all of the kind of things that are coming through in terms of regulation and building safety. So it takes all of those things into consideration, and I recommend the business plan to go forward.
Thank you very much. I have a question from Councillor Malcolm. Councillor Malcolm? I don't have his camera on and he's on mute.
No, sorry, Councillor Mason. I've already had an answer back from the officers on that. I'm sorry that you weren't informed of that, so I don't need to ask a question. So
that's fine. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments, therefore, from members of the Cabinet? If there are none, can I ask that the recommendations of the report are agreed? Thank you. We then move to item number 18, the insurance procurement strategy. Councillor Donnelly.
Yes, Chair. Like all organisations, the council periodically renews its insurances. These are for those not connected with our property portfolio, and this current arrangements expire in September. So we're seeking to ensure we have appropriate arrangements to replace them by then.
We must have insurance for all of the things that we need insurance for, and we have a budget, and I can see that we have some very clear targets in that. So I certainly would commend the report. I don't believe that there are any questions, so therefore can I ask that the recommendations are agreed. Thank you very much. We then move to the Q3 2025-26 budget update. Councillor Donnelly.
Thank you very much, Chair. I suppose this item's in some respects a bit of a prequel to what we had before. It ties in well, I think, with what I was saying about challenges and opportunities. We've seen a dip in our financial position for Q3 because I think I've said in the past, when all three of adult services, children's services, and temporary accommodation homelessness are causing us problems at the same time, it creates a situation that's hard for us to keep in balance. And I think there's two responses to that. One is officers at all levels are already implementing plans to manage our spend in these and other areas to ensure the best possible use of our money moving forward. But secondly, shows the importance, as I was saying before, about the twin strands of our investment moving forward with the new budget, the importance of how we invest in the delivery demand-led services to get the best possible bang for our buck for us and for our residents. Otherwise, the danger for any council that just sits back, however much it may receive in the fair funding review, would be these demand-led services could soak up anything that you threw at them. And that's not an acceptable position for this council. And we will ensure that our plans and our investment give us the best possible results. In the meantime, we will work like Trojans to turn around this position to get as close to a balance as we can by the end of the year.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Donnelly. And and just to support and reiterate your point that we as a local authority have a budget in which we use to deliver public services and the priorities of the administration that stem from the mandate that we're given from the public. We need to be able to continue to do that holistically across all the things that we do as a council, and we should always be striving to deliver incredible public services that are modern, efficient and move with the times, that reflects all of the developing knowledge that we can accumulate on what is right for people. And we must continue to do that in our social care services and in our temporary accommodation and homelessness services. Simply doing that which we have always done and for forever is no longer sustainable, as it has never been sustainable. What, of course, as you rightly point out, a degree of investment will allow us to do is to do what you discussed in the medium-term financial strategy and budget discussion, which was to think really hard about how we can get upstream to many of those social challenges to prevent people from having to experiencing things that we wouldn't wish them to experience, first and foremost, and secondly, have serious financial implication to the taxpayer. So our commitment to fiscal discipline, ruthless efficiency and stretching every penny of taxpayers' money is not going away, and it's not going away anytime soon. And I'm sure we will continue to, therefore, to monitor the budget in that fashion as we get through the next quarter too. So if there are no further comments or questions from members of the Cabinet, I'll ask that you review the recommendations and that they're agreed. Item number 20, Villiers High School Award of Main Contract Works. Councillor Blacker.
Thank you, Chair. Cabinet will be aware of the long history of the works at Villiers, not helped by the collapse of a construction company to which we previously appointed to do the works. But we are now in a position to award the main contract to Morgan Sindall, and we are also in a position to increase the budget. But in light of your comments about fiscal responsibility, would like to draw your attention to the fact that it's from grant reserves and a contribution from the school. So we are not spending money that is not that we don't have on this project, but it is much needed in the area, and look forward to it finally getting off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I have to go to Villiers High School once more, as I frequently do, to be asked by Villiers High School, when is this happening? I will finally be able to tell them, should, of course, you agree the report. So I'm hopeful that we can move forward, as I'm sure the parents, teachers and young people at Villiers High School are too. So with that in mind, our Cabinet happy to agree the recommendations in the report. The final agenda item is item number 21. It's the WLA Joint Committee. As members are all too aware, given that we are the accountable body for the West London Alliance, you have over many years had to take all of the decisions on behalf of the WLA as the sub-regional partnership for the coalition of 7 boroughs across West London. It's not the view that in the London Borough of Ealing that is a particularly sustainable position, not least with potential future changes and opportunities that might arise from devolution from the government, but also for the health of the organisation and its appropriate governance. Therefore, I'm really pleased that we have been able to arrive at a situation in which Barnet, Brent, Ealing, Harrow and Hounslow have all agreed to form a joint committee under legislation which will allow those councils to have the WLA take the decisions that would otherwise have come to Ealing Cabinet, which I'm sure will be very, very welcome for our timelines. I just do want to bring your attention, though, to a late amendment to the report, which is that since the report was published, the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham have indicated that they don't wish to participate in the Joint Committee at this stage. So accordingly, reference to LBHF will be removed from the terms of reference, and any references to 6 boroughs will be replaced with 5. So all of that said, are there any questions or comments from members of the Cabinet? No. If there are none, can I ask that the recommendations in the report agreed? Thank you. And that concludes the business of Cabinet. We'll see you in March. Thank you.